All right, welcome everyone. Today is Wednesday, the 25th of October, 2023, and this is the Cluster API project meeting. Cluster API is a sub-project of Kubernetes SIG cluster lifecycle, and as such, we follow the Kubernetes SIG's guidelines, which basically means please treat everyone as you would expect to be treated, or explicitly, please be kind to each other. And if you'd like to talk, please raise your hand and I will call on you. At the beginning of our meetings, we like to give an opportunity for new attendees or new community members to say hello to the group. So I will be quiet for a few seconds here. And if you'd like to say hello, please raise your hand and I'll call on you. Dharmit, please.
Yeah, thanks. Hey everyone, my name is Dharamjeet. I am working as a software engineer at VMware. And the features that I'm working on, the users cluster API. So I have some understanding of cluster API. And recently, there is this need for in-place upgrades. And for the same, I have created a GitHub issue. And recently, there is a PR to create a feature group around that. So I intend to participate and contribute towards that. Yeah, thanks.
Awesome. Welcome to the community, Dharmjeet. All right, I'm not seeing any other hands raising, so let's move on to the open proposal readouts. What do we got here? So looks like we have two open proposals at the moment, the cluster API conditions and the flexible managed Kubernetes endpoints. I don't know if Fabrizio or Jack, is anybody around to comment on either of these? I don't see Fabrizio.
On mine.
Jack. Yeah, Jack, please.
Thanks, Mike. So I am announcing that we are actively reviewing this. As soon as we get a sufficient maintainer LGTM, I would advocate we set a 5 business day lazy consensus timer. So I was curious what folks think about that concept. Sort of hoping to get that today, but Stefan had some great remarks, and so there's some outstanding review feedback items that we can't turn into an LGTM quite right yet. But if we can get maintainer LGTM achievement unlocked, let's say in the next couple of days, then I will post in Cappy Slack that will set a lazy consensus for merge 5 business days after that. Unless, of course, anyone here or on Slack has any concerns, super open to those concerns. Any thoughts?
Yeah, Stefan.
Yeah, I think the comments I had are nothing really fundamental. But what would be probably really good is if Vince and or Fabrizio can take a look until next week or something.
Yep, they're good comments. Thank you.
All right. Does anyone else have questions or comments about the flexible managed Kubernetes endpoints? I see a thumbs up coming from chat. Okay, well, Gesundheit, Jack, and thank you for the update. Okay, so let's get into our discussion topics. Andreas, you've got the first one with the kubeadm config changes. So please.
Thanks. Yeah, back with the same topic. So if someone isn't aware of this topic, it's basically about if you make changes to kubeadm config to bootstrap something different on machines, this doesn't really work on machine pools because the changes are not rolled out. So no new nodes are created once you make a change. And we talked a lot about this and the latest proposal to at least get a step ahead. Something I now did. So if you scroll all the way down, with the fixes I now made to Kappa and the fix that already was luckily in Kapi, we do now have a working use case where we can at least change the reference to, in this case, kubeadm config or whatever bootstrap config it is. But now the actual problem remains. So the infra provider such as Kappa still cannot really determine, is there a change really, or is there no change? So as it stands right now, Kappa would not create new instances if there is a change to the bootstrap secret. right? So even though I now made this working that you can change the reference to kube ADM config, and it gets reconciled correctly, so the new bootstrap secret with all the changes is created, it still doesn't end up on new nodes. So I'm kind of back to square one plus some fixes. And you might remember a previous proposal was to check something where we have a contract towards the infra provider to tell it, hey, something relevant has changed. And by relevant, I mean something in spec and not only the random bootstrap token. And that's where we kind of stopped because we didn't have great ideas and thought this is hackish because it needs to change the whole contract. So I'm basically asking if anyone has more ideas here, contribute to the issue. I only did this today with the fixes, so I'm now thinking more about how else we can either really make it work by contract changes or at least for me to work around it. But I didn't see a great option to work around because you have to do this atomically, and everything we have available to roll out new nodes, at least in Kappa, is not atomic. So you might get nodes with the old configuration or some other issues. So I don't have a great natural solution right now in mind. And yeah, would like some help.
Yeah, I've got a couple of hands up here. Cecile, please.
Sure.
Yeah, so can you expand a bit on the part where Kappa doesn't roll out the new nodes? Like, isn't the whole point of something changing in the machine pool and the fact that the infrastructure machine pool controller wedges the machine pool, shouldn't that be enough to trigger the rollout?
Yes, it is enough to trigger the reconciliation, but in the reconciliation code, Kappa basically sees what was the old secret and what's the new secret content. And of course, it can see a change, obviously, but it does not trigger an instance refresh. And instance refresh for the non-AWS people, that creates new nodes in the autoscaling group. It only does that if the AMI has changed, so the VM image, or if something else substantial has changed, like the tags. But since the bootstrap secret can contain non-relevant changes such as only the bootstrap token, it will currently not roll out new nodes because otherwise every 10 minutes it would recreate all the nodes, which is, yeah, it's not production ready. So what we would have to do, and this was kind of suggested before, but it's very hacky, look inside the secret and parse the ignition format or the cloud init format, remove the token from there, see if there's a difference. But this doesn't really belong in the infra provider, and the infra provider shouldn't know what's in there. It shouldn't need to. It only needs to know, is there a change and do I need to roll something out?
So maybe I'm
So it's
missing something.
not really
but
Kappa specific.
maybe I'm missing something, but my understanding is that, you know, we don't want to roll out the nodes if the secret hasn't changed. Like the actual secret does rotate, but nothing, you know, only if the user does intentionally change the machine by the kubeadm config, right? Then we
Right.
should roll out and that would be a change that would go in Kappa, right? Like I agree it doesn't happen today, but can we change the code in a way that it does?
Well, Kappa would have to look inside the secret, and there's this one random part, which is the bootstrap token, which changes every few minutes because we need to keep it fresh for new nodes to start. Because the cloud provider, in this case, the autoscaling group, could create nodes at any time. So the token must be fresh, which means we all the time create a new so-called launch template version, which is ready with the latest token to create instances. But if we always rolled out new nodes, once the token changes, then every 10 minutes we would roll out all the nodes. So that's the issue. So we basically have to tell the infra provider if something relevant has changed, and we don't have a way to do that.
Okay, I'll take a look closer at the code because I feel like we're not talking about the same thing, and maybe that's my own misunderstanding, but I definitely don't think we should roll it out every time the token changes. I was just thinking we'd be able to tell that it wasn't just the token based on the kubeadm config object changing. But I'll take a look at the and
sure. I'm just posting the code, basically one function that does this. It does get the new bootstrap data from the secret. It does have the old bootstrap data from the cloud resource, and it can compare. It even has both the old and the new hashes. But yeah, that's about it. But yeah, please have a look, because it probably gets out of scope if we discuss a half an hour here. So yeah, happy to discuss this also in chat if we have more ideas.
We do have a relatively light agenda today, so I guess we can probably discuss this for a few more minutes at least. I have kind of a relatively naive question here, and maybe this goes into what you were talking about with the contract changes, but isn't there a way for the kubeadm controller to, couldn't we have like a status, like a condition that is put onto the object so that we could inform the other component, the other controller that, like, you know, like the secret was updated or whatever?
Yeah, that the secret updated is clearly something we can detect and do detect by now by bubbling up the change. But that's essentially what I suggested by adding a status.hash field, like the hash of the bootstrap secret, except for this random token part, right? But this would create a rather major contract change, which all the infra providers have to implement. It's one idea. I think it's kind of valid, but I'm not sure if we want to make this large scale change if we already know that there's some open proposal to change the whole bootstrap plus provisioning thing and make it nicer. So the other idea is, instead of a field, use a label or annotation to do the same thing. We can discuss it. It is a solution that will work. And also probably atomically, I'm not sure. But yeah, other ideas are welcome as well.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for the extra explanation there. Stefan, you've got your hand up.
Okay, so just did I get it right? Did we basically establish that if a user wants to change the kubeadm config, they will create a new kubeadm config and then update the ref in the machine pool? Is that the way
that is now working after the fixes are merged? Yep. So I tested it today. It works, but essentially, you of course get the same problem, right?
Yeah. So now
it's still a secret that contains data.
Right? Yeah. No. What I'm wondering,
we can now build on top of that.
Yeah. What I'm wondering is essentially following. Can't we basically, let's say the infra machine pool controller is basically remembering, the last time I did like an instance refresh, I did this based on this kubeadm config with this name, this namespace, whatever. And when that controller detects, oh, now we have a new kubeadm config, then we know, okay, there was actually a change that should trigger an instance refresh, and then we trigger that. Essentially, the machine side controller is working exactly that way. Sorry, the machine deployment controller. So the machine deployment controller creates a machine set with one ref. If the ref changes, it says, oh, I have to do something. It creates a new machine set with the new ref. And basically, it could work the same way in machine pools.
Yeah, it's probably a different case. I had the very same idea today. So in short, if the name changes, roll out the nodes. That's kind of what you want. However, what if the resulting bootstrap secret, so the data by which the VMs are bootstrapped, is the very same before and after? Then a user probably wouldn't expect it to roll out nodes. So I'm not sure about that one. So if really only the name changes and not the content, not the spec, then it's quite surprising for users if new nodes are created.
I'm not sure if it's basically their own fault, if they like create a new kubeadm config with the same content, update the reference, and then they, are surprised by rollout. Maybe that's like the least bad problem that we have.
Right. But at least I think it's a good idea, but we should be explicit by putting this into the contract. Like if the reference changes, consider it a full rollout. I would be totally fine with that, and it's quite easy.
I think it's reasonable to do because, for machine deployment, we always made this like the expected UX, that if you update this sort of stuff, that you will get rollouts. So it seems reasonable to do the same for machine pools. But Vince, I'll let you.
Yeah, so
Vince has his hand up.
Yeah, I'd like to let Vince go, and then maybe we move on to the next topic after this one. So please, Vince.
So I thought that this was already kind of discussed like last time, but maybe I'm misunderstanding. But changing the reference, it expects a rollout regardless if the secret has changed or not. That's not the responsibility of any controller that's watching that secret to go and like diff and hash and or whatnot. Now, the problem becomes just tricky because like the token in that secret is responsible to keep that secret alive. And for machine pool, that secret is reused over and over. No, yeah, I mean, yeah, it was used over and over alongside the token as well. So the token has to be live. It also does, so do we agree, Andreas, that is the case? Just before I go on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Now, so like, let's open a different issue specifically for QBDM, and the token handling of it all. That should be handled separately. And the same, like, I wouldn't want to do something specific for machine pool. If we have to do something for the token and handle the token in a different way, we should do it across the board. And maybe we can find a way to do it in copy so like folks don't have to kind of re-implement this across the infra provider. But the only thing that the like that secret has to do, it could potentially say, I'm part of machine pool, I know what I have to do if I'm part of machine pool, but we need to kind of move this out of this long issue that kind of mingles a lot of things at once and make it only specific to like the token itself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, right. So I think there's this big proposal open to unify, no, actually not unify, to split apart reasonably the bootstrapping from provisioning. Not sure which issue number it is, but
well, that
it's
is
kind
even
of a
a
longer
different
project.
thing.
Maybe,
no,
yeah.
that's
But it could
a
solve exactly
different thing
that.
I'm talking. Maybe, but I wouldn't rely on that to kind of like solve the immediate issue. It's like we have a problem with the bootstrap token and machine pool specifically. So let's look at that into a box for a second and then try to solve kind of that use case. The other separation of concerns for the bootstrapping, that's fair, but that's not really relevant here, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, here, no matter if the token is inside or not, we need to know in the infra provider should we roll out or not. So I guess the idea about treating a reference change as a rollout, I think that makes sense. If you think
that
I
makes
should go ahead like that.
That makes sense to me. And Fabrizio's just said in chat what I had in mind, but I didn't want to solutionize before we actually write down the use case. So.
Yeah, I'm fine to create a new issue for that because it's really separate. You're right.
Okay, so we've got things actually grew on our agenda, so I want to kind of like maybe put a pin in this for now. Really good conversation going on. I can see a lot of opinions in chat. I would ask everyone to maybe go to the issue and leave some thoughts there to maybe help the next step of this. Or Andreas, if you create a new issue, then hopefully we could get some of the discussion going there. So good discussion from everyone, though. Thank you.
Yeah, so for the current one, I will try this implementation with treating the reference change as a rollout to see if it works. And yeah, we can still see if people are against it, but don't have to open this as a PR yet. And I will also try to create the new issue.
Cool.
Thank
Sounds
you.
good. Thanks. Okay, I've got the next topic, which is kind of a PSA. I put up the PR to create the feature group for Carpenter last week. No real comments on here yet, so I'm assuming that everyone is okay with what's in there. So I wanted to see if we could propose maybe a lazy consensus to merge that PR. And I'd be happy to merge it next week. But if we'd prefer to wait till after KubeCon, because I know, not everyone has as much time to spend on this now. I'd be happy to wait till after KubeCon too. Does anybody have thoughts or opinions about this? Yeah, Jack, please.
I would advocate we merge before lazy consensus end of this week. I think having that landed in time for KubeCon could potentially unlock conversations and unlock collaboration.
Yeah, I mean, given what's going on in SIG autoscaling, I totally agree with you. It seems like they might try to come to a resolution about adopting Carpenter into SIG autoscaling right before KubeCon. So that, yeah, that could be cool, but I didn't want to rush it if people still had stuff they wanted to talk about. So I'm seeing some +1s in chat. Someone saying we should merge. Willie says or Killian says we should merge now. All right. I guess end of week. If someone can label that up and merge it, that would be awesome. I don't know if I don't think I have the permissions to do that on my own PR. Okay. Looks like good consensus from the group. Thanks, everybody. So we'll move on to the next topic. Willie with a CAPI 1.6.0 beta release.
Yeah, hey everyone, just a quick PSA that the 1.6 beta it releases out along with 2 other patch releases, 1.153 and 1.48. So yeah, big shout out to the release team for putting this together and getting everything done. And I've linked to each of the releases in the notes. The patch releases are mostly just bug fixes, and then the 1.6.0 is a beta release. So it'd be great for providers to maybe try this out on a branch and just to get everything ready before the 1.6 release. So yeah, pretty much it. Thanks again to the release team for all the hard work.
Awesome. Thank you for the announcement. And I love the new hairdo, Willie. It's looking great.
Oh, thank you.
All right. So next up is Jonathan, picking back up the Docker machine pool implementation. So please, Jonathan.
Yeah, also just a quick PSA. I'm picking up back on the Docker machine pool implementation PR. And I also found a couple of bugs with the machine pool core PR that weren't being tested because we didn't really have a Docker implementation yet. So I opened up a small second PR to address that, but I'm hoping to have everything ready for review by the end of this week. I know it's kind of an aggressive time frame. I don't, no pressure to review it if you need to prepare for KubeCon, obviously. But if you have time, hoping to have it ready by Monday. And I've been working on refactoring it, so it'd be easier to read as well.
That sounds very interesting. Thanks, Jonathan. Does anybody have questions or comments about the machine pool implementation here? Okay, I'm not seeing anything. If folks are interested, take a review. I think I will try to as well, because that sounds really cool. Thanks again, Jonathan. Next up, Arnaud about the CI maintenance move proud job. So please, Arnaud.
Hey folks, I'm from Kate Infra, and we currently working on redefining the ownership of all the proud job across the entire project. So we start to identify any project running inside the Google infrastructure. So I open an issue to target specific project. In the case of CAPI, I'm focused on the periodic one, trying to move them to the community owned infrastructure before end of the year. So I'm trying to basically get some triage around that issue.
That sounds very cool. And I see Stefan has his hand up. So please, Stefan.
Yeah, I think the only reason why we waited essentially is because we moved the 1.3 jobs. And we frequently just are getting our pods killed. And I think that issue was, I think it was showing up like 1 or 2 months ago in the SIG Kate's info channel or something. And I don't know. I mean, is there any hope to getting that resolved, or is it more like we should move over anyway and then just ignore those sort of failures?
Yeah, we are currently working on identifying the different solutions. So the situation got better since last month. We have less issue right now, so we're trying to move forward. We are closely working with the AWS support team because currently we use a EKS cluster for that. So I would suggest basically to migrate project as soon as possible and report to us if there are any kind of issues, so we can collect any information and provide that to the support team.
Yeah. I mean, I think essentially the CI team has to discuss it, but I guess it could be okay for us to move if we can basically cleanly separate like this one sort of job failure from all the other flakes that we potentially have. So that might be good enough, even if we introduce like, I don't know, 10% flakiness for the move or something. But yeah, not up to me. Just,
Yeah.
All right, I see Fabrizio, you've got your hand up next, please.
And your microphone is not working.
Was that Fabrizio's microphone or mine?
Fabrizio's.
No,
Oh, yeah.
me probably.
Okay.
Now it works.
No, it works.
Perfect.
What about considering a middle ground? We wait moving job for main for the release that we are cutting. We move all the branch, and we move main and branch we are cutting only when things are stable or end of year.
I see Vince is giving a plus in chat to that.
I can give a brief context on that, Fabrizio. So we have release 1.3 migrated to EKS community cluster already to see if to see the health and the performance on the community cluster, and we have been seeing some unexpected pod deletions. I also followed up on the issue. I think thanks to Christian, he pointed out that there was one flake on October 23rd where the test pod got deleted abruptly. So I'm trying to follow up. I posted on the SIG infra channel as well. That's it.
All right, thanks, Nawaz and Fabrizio. Were there any other comments on this one or questions? Okay, thank you for bringing the issue, Arnaud. Like, sounds like cool stuff. So moving to the provider updates now. Kappa, Richard, please. I guess you got both of them, so go ahead.
Cool. Yeah, cheers. They're very quick updates. So on the Kappa front, we made a bunch of reviewer maintainer changes last week. So we added 3 reviewers. Vince also moved back from Emeritus to maintainer, and we moved a couple of people the other way as well. But hopefully this will speed up PR reviews, etc., and getting releases out. Just to give a context, it took us 3 months to get a patch release out in Kappa. So yeah, hopefully this is all going to help on that front. On the CapG side, similar story, I guess, in a way. We've been blocked on the end-to-end test surveillance for the conformance suite probably for about a month now. So spare cycles have been going into getting that fixed. And a big shout out to Carlos, who finally got to the bottom of it, and that's fixed now, so it's all gone green. But this basically means that those cycles can be dedicated back to getting PRs reviewed, and more importantly, getting a new release out with CAPI 1.5 support. The code's already done, but it was blocked on getting the performance tests done. And usual, if you want to get more involved with CAPG, please reach out. Always looking for more help. Cheers. That's it.
All right, thank you, Richard. And I just wanted to echo, like, there were some comments in the chat. I see Fabrizio saying congrats to all the new reviewers and approvers. Yes, like, thank you and congrats to everyone. Like, the community is what makes the strength of this project. All right, so that is the end of our agenda, and I guess we reached it a little earlier than I thought. Did people still want to talk about Andreas's topic? Because I kind of cut that off earlier. I wanted to make sure we had enough time for everything. Do people want to talk about that some more, or do we feel like we've gotten what we wanted? And I mean, it sounds like Andreas knows what he wants to do next. Okay.
Yeah, for me it's fine.
Okay. Thanks, Andreas. I'm not seeing any hands go up or anything, so I'm guessing people are cool to kind of take it to issues and whatnot. All right. Well, why don't we take back about 25 minutes of our day here if there's no further discussion to have. And thank you all for coming out.